So the Avengers Disassembled event brings us the conclusion of the entire Avengers Disassembled, storyline. And what we find here is that the Avengers are now joined by Doctor Strange. Now, initially, Doctor Strange says he apologizes that he hadn't been able to be here for the entire conflict, simply citing the fact that he had been predisposed. But what he tells the Avengers is that someone somewhere is molesting the magics, that someone is using magic to do all of this. Now, initially, the Avengers are trying to ask who this person is. They want to know who it is that has done this. And what Doctor Strange tells them is that he asks them, is there anyone they know who has such power that they can manipulate reality in this fashion, that they can effectively use magic for the purpose of carrying out the things that have taken place over the course of the day? And so what we do is we switch to Scarlet Witch, and Scarlet Witch is meeting with Agatha Harkness. And what Scarlet Witch asks Agatha is why it is that people believe that she has children, and then she immediately goes on a rampage and asks Agatha Harkness what it is that has happened to her children, why it is that they aren't there. Now, we're not immediately told what happens after this. In fact, we don't really know. All we know is that somewhere along the line after this meeting with Agatha Harkness, the Scarlet Witch began going on a rampage against the Avengers, which leads us to believe that the Scarlet Witch somewhere along the line had connected two dots that were previously unconnected, and that she had lost her children and the Avengers had taken them. And so what happens here as the Avengers begin to put together what it is that Doctor Strange is saying is that this cannot be the Scarlet Witch, that it's not possible that the Scarlet Witch would go through these steps and effectively try to kill off all the Avengers. And this is believed by the Avengers for a couple reasons. The first is, of course, Scarlet Witch is one of their own. She has been part of the Avengers for quite some time. But Nick Fury chimes in here, and Nick Fury says this is entirely possible that the Scarlet Witch could do this. And it's entirely possible for a couple reasons. One, because she was one of the first members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants under Magneto. But more so than that, she had been left to the upbringing of Magneto, a mutant terrorist who hated humanity and who would go to extraordinary steps in order to achieve his goals. And this really falls directly in line with the kind of thing that Magneto would do. And so what happens here is Doctor Strange begins giving us an explanation on the life of Wanda Maximoff. He begins telling us about how it is that her powers exist in relation to her mindset. And this is extremely important, and the reason why is because what Doctor Strange is basically going to be telling us here is that she has been progressively becoming more and more insane, and he does this by telling us that she was born into these powers, she was born into these abilities, where someone like Doctor Strange had learned these abilities over the course of tutelage with the Ancient One. She was born into them but had no real understanding of how they worked, and so the problem was that she would use circumstances like conflict, she would use circumstances like the death of a person to bring them back to life and to subtly alter the world in a way that would fit her image. And so she has been effectively warping reality over time. But the problem is that the longer she does this, the more she does this, the more insane she becomes, the more she begins to lose her grip on reality. In addition to this, her entire past is mired with loss and psychological torment. Of course, we had seen her lose various individuals. We had seen her and the Vision break apart. We had seen them, of course, split up. We had seen her and Wonder Man become a couple for a while, and then Wonder Man had left her. And then we saw, of course, the entire upbringing she had where she was manipulated psychologically by Magneto. And so once she had learned that she had had children, and those children had presumably been lost, that was the final straw. Now, what Wanda Maximoff doesn't know here is that her children were never real, that her children never existed, that she had basically conjured them into existence. And so once they had gone away, she was trying to figure out what it was that had taken place that would led to their existence and then led to them disappearing. And so what happens here is the Avengers have a very hard time picking up on this. They have a very hard time believing that this would be the case, that Wanda Maximoff would effectively wage war against the Avengers. And so Tony Stark says there's only one real way to know this is sure. There's only one real way to know what it is that's taking place with regards to Wanda Maximoff. And so what he does is have Doctor Strange transport them to the home of Wanda Maximoff. And so from here, we switch to the Scarlet Witch. And this is very important here. And the reason why is because what we see is that the Scarlet Witch is having dinner with Wonder Man, with the Vision, with Agatha Harkness, and her sons. But all of this is an illusion. None of this is real. This is all simply just her warping reality. And so what happens is Captain America appears to her, and Captain America says he just simply wants to help. The Avengers want to help her regain her sanity and to bring this conflict to an end. But Scarlet Witch immediately lashes out. And what's really interesting here is that her children effectively begin speaking for her. And it's basically with this circumstance that she has two children, each one representing opposing parts. The one child represents the aspect of her that wants things to stay the same, that wants this perfect life that she has envisioned for herself. But the other half is the logical side, the side that knows that she can't keep doing this. But ultimately, Wanda Maximoff ends up conjuring Red Skull along with a host of Nazis and end up attacking Captain America. And so from here, we see that she begins to confront all of the Avengers that have gathered outside of her home, and she begins conjuring all different forms of arch nemesis of these various Avengers, taking it in turns for all the Avengers to come into conflict as a whole. And so what we do as this conflict continues is we see that Doctor Strange eventually confronts Wanda Maximoff, and when he does, he tells her this needs to end, that this needs to stop. And what he does is he uses the Eye of Agamotto to put her into a psychological trance to effectively shut her mind down. And so when this time comes, the Avengers band together and they try to figure out what it is that needs to be done here. But before they can take any further steps, Magneto appears. Now, Magneto had previously been informed by Charles Xavier that everything that had taken place on this day was due to the actions of Wanda Maximoff. And so Magneto, realizing that he had effectively failed her, that he had failed her as a father and had instilled in her these psychological torments, takes her away to parts unknown. Now, we'll find out in the House of M storyline that he had actually taken her to Genosha alongside Quicksilver. But what we do here is we basically bring this story to a close. We bring this event to an end where the Avengers try to figure out what it is that's going on. They try to figure out what's taking place. And of course, they move on with their normal lives, albeit without the financial support of Tony Stark. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know, and I will catch you guys later. Peace. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. There you can keep up with all the updates from Marvel Explained and talk to me directly.